Hi guys, Tracy here for another ScrapChat video. I have quite a few questions to answer today. Last night I put a post on our 27-day challenge group just giving a bit of a heads up and asking if people had any questions for this video, and I got a whole lot of questions. So I have my own little agenda here of things that I wanted to talk about, but we'll see how it goes. I have also the Facebook group post here, and what I'll probably do is just go through. I have not prepared very much. I did pull out a layout and a couple of other things to show you guys just based on the questions that I remembered getting, but this might not be the most organized ScrapChat in the world, but I thought that if I spent too much time preparing, it just kind of like makes it a bigger deal and makes it harder for me to get these videos out. So I thought I'd just do a pretty casual. This one might be fairly long-winded, but you guys know to expect that from me by this point when it comes to ScrapChats. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my international students because I did receive several questions on both my YouTube channel and also on Facebook and Instagram about the international students that we have been hosting. So I have talked about them in other ScrapChat videos about why we hosted students and what we got out of it and how fun it was. So I will try to remember to find those and link them. I'm going to make a note. So international students ScrapChat. I'll try to find the link to that because I know there was one ScrapChat where I talked about it in quite a lot of detail. So we do get a lot out of hosting international students, and I've received a lot of questions from people saying, are you getting a student this year? This is the time of year when they arrive. So we actually decided not to have any international students this year, probably next year and the year after. So for the next 3 years at least, we will probably not have any international students unless if we change our minds in a pretty serious way. We miss having them already. We miss, like, we're seeing Instagram posts from other families who host students, and it does feel a little bit like we're feeling left out from all of the, especially those exciting first moments when they arrive and they're settling in and you're showing them around and everything. We really love that part a lot. So yes, we're missing it, but we have decided to not host students for the next 3 years anyways because Liv is starting junior high and French immersion this year, and so she requires more of our attention just with kind of balancing her social life and activities, and also she has a whole lot of homework because she's learning French for the first time, and I will speak to French immersion as well because I received a lot of questions about that too. And so, pardon me, we just felt like we didn't want to feel like our attention and love and time were too divided, so we thought we would focus on just our own 2 biological kids for this next couple of years. And because when we take a student in, they really are part of our family, and so we love them as if they are our own, and we kind of like take them around places and we drive them as if, you know, like we always ask ourselves, if it was our 16-year-old, would we drive them to that party or would we make them get their own transportation? And so those sort of, like, we drive our students around a lot and we don't mind doing that, but we also are mindful that we don't want to overwhelm ourselves or put ourselves in a position where we feel like we're not doing a good job with either our own kids or with the students. So we didn't want to sell anybody short, so we've decided to take a couple of years off. My other daughter will be going to junior high in another 2 years, and so, you know, just throughout that transition, once we all settle into the junior high routine, then we'll see how we feel. But we very well might not take any more students until our own kids are in high school as well. So that's students. And then the other question that I got that's kind of like a question about me and not scrapbooking is about French immersion. So any Canadian viewers out there probably are familiar with French immersion in the Canadian system, and I don't know how immersion programs are delivered in other parts of the world, but here in Canada, because we do have 2 official languages and one of them is French, most school boards offer some type of French immersion programming for students, and French immersion is different than French school. So if you have parents who are French, at least I'm only going to speak to Nova Scotia and really Halifax, because I don't know how it's delivered in different provinces, but around here anyways, there's French school, which is for kids who have French speaking parents at home. So they go to school and they receive all of their education in French. French immersion is different than that. It is designed for kids who do not have French speaking parents and who do not know any French. So in Nova Scotia, all kids start taking a French class, which is, I think it's like 30 minutes a day, Monday to Friday, in grade 4. So at this point, she has had French class for grade 4, 5, and 6. So she has some basic understanding of, like, she's got a basic vocabulary and she has a basic understanding of grammar. And they mostly focus on like songs and poems and reading basic stories and a lot of vocabulary from what I gather. But in French immersion, she goes to school and is expected to speak French all day long in class. So she's allowed to speak English on at lunch break and before and after classes. But when she's in the classroom, the expectation is that they speak entirely French, and the teacher does all of the instructions in French. So that means she's learning math in French, she's learning science in French, she's learning social studies in French, and then she has FLA, which is French language arts, and ELA, which is English language arts, and that is the only subject that is given in English. And her gym is in French, and her music and her art, everything is in French. And so the idea is that when you're receiving a French immersion education, you pick up the language, and at the end of it, you will be able to be qualified to be what we consider officially bilingual. But you do have to take an extra, like after you graduate in grade 12 from French immersion, you have to go off to a weekend getaway at a French university nearby and kind of have one last immersion exercise, I guess, and then I think you get tested there as well. And if you pass the test, then you are qualified as officially bilingual for working in the federal government and other things in Canada. So that's the benefit to it. And there are two different kinds of French immersion. So there's grade primary French immersion, which is called early immersion. That's where they learn French right from day one. All of their instructions are in French. And then there's late immersion, which is where you join French immersion in grade 7. And so that's what my daughter's doing. She had her elementary school in English, and now she's getting her junior high in French. And then she'll make a decision in grade 10. She can go back into English in grade 10 for high school, or she can continue in French immersion in high school, depending on what she wants to do. So that's what French immersion is all about, and basically it means that she is not only learning the grade 7 curriculum this year, but she's also learning French in a more significant way than she has ever learned it before. So, so for that reason, she has more homework than her English peers would have, and probably more homework than her late immersion or her early immersion peers would have as well, because they at this point already know the language, so they're just learning the subject matter at this point. So it is a heavier workload for her for the first couple of... So I wanted to talk about scrap room, and my scrap room, as you can see, is a little bit different. Well, you probably can't tell, but I have my coffee maker on the floor and a bunch of boxes right there as well. These are dolls that I've sold that are just waiting to go out. They're on a payment plan, so when they're all paid, they'll go out. And then coffee makers on the floor because my husband, we're doing a renovation project in the rest of the basement. We're finally, hopefully, finishing the basement, but he's working full-time now, and I'm working full-time, and I've got the YouTube gig as well, so it's very, very slow going, but everything out there is covered in drywall dust because he's kind of drywalling and sanding whenever he can, so that stuff has to sit around here. I want to do a scrap room tour because I have made some small changes. It won't be a big, intense, go into all my drawers type of scrap room tour because I did one of those not too long ago. And the way that I store most of my stuff is still the same. But I do want to show you a few tweaks that I made, but I'm going to wait until I don't have a coffee maker on my floor and a few other things are kind of settled around here before I do that. So sometime in the coming months, there will be a scrap room tour for you guys to see as well. I have also started doing Project Life again, and if you're new to my channel, meaning if you've come to see me in the past year or so, or actually, if you've come to see me in the past like 3 or 4 years, I might seem pretty fickle when it comes to Project Life, meaning I'm kind of on it and off it and on it and off it. And that has been the way it's been for the past couple of years. I've been really trying to find my groove. Now, prior to that, I was really committed to Project Life, and I got 3 full years of documenting. One was daily documenting, like I did the classic Becky Higgins design A with 1 week spread across 2 pages, and I did it religiously, and sometimes I was behind, but never more than a couple of weeks, and I got it done. I consider that probably my most successful Project Life year. I captured so many amazing details about our life that I just would have glossed over if all I was doing was 12 by 12 scrapbooking. And then I did it the next year. I think I did it like every 2 weeks or something. And then the following year, I think I did it monthly. And then after that, I really struggled in terms of how to capture, and I was feeling really low motivation to keep on capturing because I found that my first 3 years were very similar. Like, oh, we're apple picking again, and oh, it's that time of year, so there's, you know, spring cleaning or whatever. It just kind of was very repetitive from year to year. It wasn't repetitive within the album, but it was repetitive from year to year, and I just kind of felt like, do I really need to keep on scrapbooking these everyday moments when they really don't change? So I took a different approach for a couple of years, and I really struggled to stick with it and to find my groove. And I think that was a motivational issue. Like, I had to figure out why I was doing this. Was I doing it just to use pocket scrapbook supplies? Or was I actually trying to tell some stories? And if so, how is it different than my 12 by 12 pages? Because my 12 by 12 pages are very every day. So I will scrapbook a 12 by 12 page about the mess my cat made on the floor. And so it's sort of, as long as I'm doing that kind of 12 by 12 scrapbooking, it really challenges me in terms of what is for pockets and what is for 12 by 12. And then my motivation to do the pocket pages just goes down because I get more joy from doing 12 by 12 pages, like from the process of doing 12 by 12 pages than anything else in the scrapbooking world. So everything else that I try to bring into my process always competes the most with 12 by 12 because if I had my way, I would just do 12 by 12 of everything, but I just don't have the time to do 12 by 12 of every single thing that I want to capture. And when I go back and look through my Project Life albums now that I haven't done a weekly approach for several years, I love those albums. In fact, of all of the albums that I ever look at again after scrapbooking and taking the picture and putting it away, really Project Life are the only albums that I ever look at again. So that tells me something. That means that kind of everyday, consistent, capturing those small moments is really worthwhile for me and for my family. So I am back on it. And at first I bought the littler albums. What are they called? I think they're 6 by 8 or 6 by 9. I forget the exact size, but those little ones with the smaller page protectors. And I thought maybe that'll make it a little bit more doable. But then I kind of looked at it and I thought, ugh, that's only like 6 pockets or 7 pockets. It seemed like if I'm going to do this, I want to do it right. So even though I bought those supplies, I decided to go back to doing 12 by 12. And God knows I have a lifetime supply of 12 by 12 pocket pages in my supply stash. So I will use those up instead. And who knows what I'll use that other album for. I might use it, oh, who knows? I might use it for a project or something. So that's what I have to say about Project Life right now. I am going to show you guys my process for Project Life. I just posted a Project Life process video recently, but I'm also going to show you my setup and how I keep my supplies. And I'm going to play around with my Project Life process videos being much more casual, and they'll probably have a lower production value, meaning I might capture myself doing pocket pages like up on my dining room table where I can be kind of like around the family and integrate the process into my family, so I don't have to come down here and turn on the camera and the lights and kind of have it be a big production. So that's what I'm thinking about doing with that. So you might notice a difference in my Project Life process videos than in my regular videos. Don't worry, I won't be changing up the process for my regular videos. I'm just going to play around with the Project Life part of it. The other thing that I have on my list is I wanted to talk to you guys about cards and just let you know I'm going to be making more cards this year, or at least trying to. I'm still doing Find Your Mojo with MercyTiara over on the Scrapbook and Cards Today channel, so make sure you subscribe to them if you haven't already, so you can check those out. I also do recap videos, and I've been timing my recap videos so they come out right after the Find Your Mojo. So the recap videos will show you all of the pages and projects and cards that I've made all month since my last recap video. And it will also include the page that I make for my Patreon account every month. I do at least one page for them. And it will also show my Find Your Mojo page so that you can see kind of like all of my work, even the work that doesn't go into my YouTube channel. You can see all of my projects all in one spot. So I'll keep on doing that. I've been live streaming with my Patreons on a regular basis. I do kind of a big two-screen, kind of like you can see my face and you can see the overhead camera at the same time. I do one of those well, I've committed to doing it every 2 months, but I end up really doing it every month because I find it so enjoyable to interact with the group of people we have over there. And so it's a live event where people log in and they can chat with me while I'm scrapbooking, and it's kind of fun. I think it's really fun, actually. So if you have been thinking about supporting me on Patreon and not sure if you want to, live streaming is something new that I'm offering over there, and I'm doing it pretty consistently. I'm also doing some behind the scenes live streaming, which is less formal and kind of off the cuff, kind of just live streaming. And if people show up, that's fine. And if they don't, they can watch it after the fact. Just kind of showing my process, just little snippets of my process, not big, long, like here I am scrapbooking the whole time. Yeah, and I have some other things that I think are going to overlap with the questions. So let's move on to the questions. Oh my goodness, we must be at least 20 minutes into this video by now. So, whoa, this is going to be a long one. 53 comments. So I don't think there's any way I can possibly answer all of these, but I will try. So Shay asks a question. She says, are kits worth it? Being in Australia, I just subscribed to Hip Kit Club compared to a bricks and mortar store. Have been buying an Australia kit for a year now. In my clean out, I got rid of a lot of stuff that comes in kits. What is your opinion of this? So, and a lot of people liked this comment, which means that a lot of people are interested in hearing this. So I had actually, before Shay asked this question, I had already planned on doing a video all about kit clubs. I do have another video. It's a ScrapChat video specific to kit clubs where I answer a lot of questions and talk a lot about kit clubs. So I will link that in the information section below. That video is from a couple of years ago now, so my thoughts and ideas might have changed since then. I haven't watched it least recently, so you can check out what I used to think about kit clubs. And then I am going to make another video because I think that I have enough to say about this that I don't really want to squeeze it into a scrap chat. But basically, I think that first of all, kit clubs aren't for everyone, and there might be a lot of pressure to use kit clubs among scrapbookers just because so many YouTubers use them, and so many, like, there's just so many kit clubs out there and they're all promoting their stuff, and so you'll see a lot of kit club scrapbooking happening out there. I think it's really important that you don't get a kit don't subscribe to a kit club just because it's what everybody else is doing, or just because it's, you know, what your favorite YouTubers are doing. So I've been getting the hip kits for a little bit over a year now, and I find that they really suit my style very well. And for me, because I work full time and then I have this YouTube scrapbooking thing on the side, I also have a family and I have a lot of other things kind of competing for my attention. I really don't have time to keep up with what's new in the industry and what and kind of like shopping and keeping the new supplies coming in. And so for me, subscribing to a kit club is something that I would do even if they didn't send it to me for free to use on my YouTube videos. And I would, of all the kit clubs that are out there right now, I'm sure that the hip kit is the one that I would be subscribing to. There, no doubt about it, that's the one I would subscribe to. But that's just because it fits with my style. So I love crepe paper. I love most of American crafts embellishments and papers. And so for me, a kit club that delivers those sorts of products, I mean, that's not all they do, but that is a lot of the content of those kits come from American crafts companies. And I just love, I just love my kits month after month after month. I'm never disappointed with them. So that's how you know that you're in a good kit club. But you do pay for a kit club, right? Like you pay for the time and energy that goes into curating the supplies and choosing the kits and designing the kits every month, as well as the design team's work and whether they have a Facebook group and just the kind of like the sourcing of all of the supplies and then the sending out of the supplies. So it is a service. So it's not just a product that you're buying. I think of kit clubs as a service. And so if you're looking for the cheapest way to get supplies, kit clubs are probably not the best way to do it. You might be better off to have a look at what kinds of supplies are going into the kit clubs, like watch some of your favorite YouTubers, and as they unbox, you might say, oh, I really like those bows, but I really don't like those puffy stickers, and then just make a list and go source it out yourself. That might be more cost efficient. But again, it might not be, because you'll pay extra shipping for the different places. Chances are you won't be able to find those supplies at the same store. And so you might be paying 2 or 3 different shipping costs. If you're living international from where the company is, then you'll be looking at exchange rates and duties and those sorts of things. And so it might be better to just get it from a kit, especially if the kit club is consistently in line with your style. And the way to find that out is to look at previous kits. So don't just look at this month's kit, go back and look at the previous kits so that you can get a sense of what things have been historically included in the kits, how many exclusive items, how many items from what kinds of paper lines do they tend to include, what kinds of color schemes do they use, do they include a whole lot of really eclectic strange items that you would struggle to use, or do they have a lot of mainstream items? Are you looking for something that will push you outside of your comfort zone, or are you looking for something that you already kind of have a comfort with? So those are the things to think about, as well as what kinds of things the club offers in terms of add-ons or other kits that you can purchase with the kit, and whether they have a shop that you can buy extra supplies from to add in with your kit, and do they offer combined shipping for those sorts of things. Those are all the things to look for in a kit club. There was one more thing that I wanted to say. What was it? Oh yes, the other thing that I wanted to say was that there very well might be kits that you don't like, and there very well might be, and this is very likely, that there will be things in kits that you don't like. So for me, when I purchase kits, I expect a certain amount of product to be something that I wouldn't choose myself. And that's part of the reason why I like kit clubs, is that it can push me outside of my comfort zone. I might find myself with a piece of paper that I never would have picked myself, but I end up really loving it. And that's something that helps me grow in my creativity. So that's something that I really love about kit clubs. However, every once in a while, there is something in a kit that I just really don't like. Not only would I not have picked it, but now I have it and I don't really like it. Like maybe maybe one piece of paper out of the 7 pieces, or maybe one package of embellishments, or one part of one of the packages of embellishments, or who knows, right? So if you've done a good job of picking a kit club that fits with your style and your goals for scrapbooking, then this shouldn't happen too often. But it might happen in, you know, every other kit or so. You might have 1 or 2 items that you really are kind of like, meh, I don't really love that. The other issue the other kind of bad thing that can happen when you belong to a kit club is you might get a kit every once in a while where the whole kit really doesn't suit your style at all. I think that this is less likely to happen if you're really careful about choosing your kit clubs, but it could happen. So you have to be ready for that to potentially happen to you if you're subscribing to a kit club. And so, I mean, it's disappointing. You pay for the kit, and historically you've loved the kits, and now you've got a whole bunch of supplies that you don't really care for. What are you going to do with them? Well, that's the kind of thing that I will be talking about in my follow-up video that will talk exclusively about kit clubs. I'm going to talk about the pros, the cons, the value, kind of do a survey of all the options out there. I'm going to talk about what do you do when you get an item that you don't like in a kit, but otherwise you like the kit, and what to do when you get a kit that it just doesn't jive for you. It's not a sign that you need to stop the kit club or kind of find another club. It could be just a one-off. I do suggest that if you've been happy with a kit club all along and then you get one rogue kit that you just don't like, I would hang in there with the kit club and see if it happens again. I think if you're getting 2 or 3, or if they're not really, you know, if you're a member for many years and you get 2 or 3, then that's okay. But if you're getting several in a row, then it might be time to change your kit clubs and try something different for a while. I will talk about all of that stuff in quite a bit more detail in an upcoming video. That's been on my list of things to do for quite some time, and here it is on my list of things to do right there. So I have this list of links to add and videos to make that will hopefully help this video go a little bit more smoothly. So the next question was about what to do if you don't have a dedicated scrap space. And my phone, for some reason, the microphone cut out on that part where I read the question and gave my initial comments on it. So I'm picking up in the middle of answering it here, but I think this is most of the content of my answer. So this is a picture of my scrap room back in 2009. It was in my dining room. That's my dining room. My table is what you see the little edge of right here. That's where my dining room table was. We had no dining room furniture at that point. All we had was a table, and so we didn't have a buffet and all that kind of stuff. So what I did was I took a wheelie cart and I kept my supplies. I would do my scrapbooking on the dining room table, and I kept my supplies pretty much hidden away because I didn't have a closet I could store them in. So a lot of scrappers that I hear from who don't have a scrap room, they do have a closet where they can store things. And so if you have a closet, then you could just put all of these things on the shelving that's in the closet, or buy some Jetmax cubes and just stack them up in the closet, and then you'll have, you know, a little bit more structure than what I had here when I first started. But basically what I did was I took this is a kitchen wheelie cart that I got from, I think I got it from the Home Depot. It's made for kind of like wheeling supplies in and out of your dining room, or I don't know, it was in the kitchen area. And but what I did was I used to keep my embellishments in these little suitcases. This is a Cuttlebug die suitcase, so this is where I kept my Cuttlebug dies in. It's like a binder that opens up. I've gotten rid of it since then, but those were where I kept my dies. And then embellishments were in these 2 black suitcases, and then I had my stamps in those 2 brown full binders. And then I think I had papers in those 2 iris containers. Those are like the iris containers that hold 12 by 12 papers. I can't remember what was in this. I guess if I zoom in I might be able to read the label, but I can't because it's all pixelated. This is where I'd keep my scraps, is in this basket. And I kept supplies in this this travel case. And I found that that was really helpful because I could just kind of like wheel that right up to my beside me when I'm scrapbooking, and then it all just lived in the corner of my dining room. It didn't look all that pretty, but I scrapbooked more often than we had friends over for dinner, so it was fine for just my family. And then these are just like IKEA cases and some storage units that I bought at Michael's, and all of my supplies fit in these few little cases right here. So let me see if I can show you a few other pictures. So I had this black case here that held my slice and all of my slice accessories and stuff. So my little 6x6 cutting pad and my little slice. The slice is just an electronic die cutting machine. It was like a little handheld one, very less expensive way to use a die cut machine than to buy a Cricut, which at the time was the standard. And then I think that was my Xyron X right there. Let's see what else I have here. Then I kept the bulk of my supplies in this carry case, like just a caddy, I guess. I still use that when I go to crops. And then I would keep, you know, stamps in some of the side pockets of my wheelie travel case. More pads of 6x6 and 8x8 paper. 6x6 paper wasn't really a big thing then. And then this is how I had just like the inside of my tote was just filled with supplies. Mostly paper was in this case. What haven't you seen yet? Okay, so this shows in a little bit more detail. So I had, what does it say? I can't quite see. I bling in this one, so this was all like rhinestone things and that sort of thing. And I don't know what, I think those were buttons, and yeah, so I can't quite remember what was in all of these things, but this was like little pull-out drawers. And then these are some idea books right there. And yeah, so this is that IKEA case or IKEA storage thing, and I can't quite tell what was in it, but this held my ribbon. And everything kind of just stacked on top of itself. And I tried to buy things in pretty neutral shades so that it would look okay in my dining room being out. So that was my first solution to not having a scrap room. And I think that probably speaks the most to your question, which is only having a closet to store your goodies in and no table to scrap on. How can I get projects done when there's no place to set up? So I mean, the bottom line is you do need a table. So this dining room does have a big table that, unless if we're eating on it, it's usually pretty clean. Now the problem with scrapbooking this way, and the reason I moved towards having a dedicated space, was because you can't have unfinished projects just sitting out. And when I was at this phase of my scrapbooking, which was my early phase, it was taking me 7 or 8 hours to do a single layout. So for that reason, it was really hard. So I relied a lot on project cases, like kind of, I would either stick my my half-finished page into a page protector, even though it was half-finished, and put all of the embellishments and stuff I was working on all in that page protector, and then put it away. Or sometimes I would just kind of like put it out on, I had a piece of foam board that I would keep in, kind of like slid back in behind some of these things, and that foam board is something that I could leave a project out on, and I had a really tall cabinet in another room that I could just put that foam board on top and no one could really see what was in it. So that was another way that I could leave a project unfinished. You can buy, like, you know, TV tables or folding tables that you can use if you don't have a table, and I will show you my basement version 1. So this was when I first moved into the basement. I have a straight on picture of the whole space. Let me find it for you. There you go. So this is my first iteration of my unfinished basement scrap room, and as you can see, there are studded walls, but they don't have drywall on them, and my whole space fit in this area. And this was a old leftover, it was the island from my old home, and we were using it for winemaking. And then we stopped winemaking. So I took it for my scrap room, and I will show you some closer, better pictures of that. So this is what the back wall looked like, and you can see into the other room because there's no drywall between them. But I have that wheelie cart from the dining room, and these are the IKEA boxes from the dining room, but they're just sitting on their sides. And this was in the dining room. Then I got one of these Sterlite containers. Let's see what I have here. So this is a buffet table. They're $50 at Canadian Tire or Home Depot and that sort of thing. It's a large 6-foot table, and I think it might be 30 inches. It's at least 24 inches deep. It's a really nice size table for scrapbooking on. In fact, 2 people could scrapbook at it at a time. And so this is where I did most of my scrapbooking, and you can see I was hanging things on the unfinished wall. I had to clip it up, and that island from my old home right there. Then I did buy some Jetmax while that room was unfinished, and this is kind of another wall there. And so here I have just my first 5 Jetmax cubes right here, where even back then I used to spread out. So I could have very easily kept my supplies in probably 2 or 3 of these Jetmax cubes, but even back then I liked spreading out. So I have, you know, cardstock divided by color, even though I only had a few sheets of each color. And this is the time when I dedicated drawers to my scraps. So I have red, orange, green, blue, gray, white, and neutrals, and then multicolors. Those were my first scrap drawers. And to this day, I still have those same scrap drawers, although I added 2 more so that I could, 1 more. This was something that worked for me. I had lots of space. It was a basement. I had like mishmash yard sale. Actually, I think this was from my husband's first apartment, and he was going to throw it out. So I just painted it black and used it in my dining room setup. I put up a picture just so that it wouldn't be quite so see-through. And then there's another shot. I added a little TV table just to have another surface that I could put stuff on. And I have 2 chairs there for somebody to join me. So that was my basement version 1. And now basement version 2. That just takes a second for it to come in from the cloud. So for basement version 2, I have walls. So we took some time and actually put some drywall up, but we didn't have time to actually finish the room, but we at least put some walls up and put some plastic covering over the doorway to the other room. And you can see I invested in some more Jetmax here, so I consolidated Jetmax from 2 different places and bought a bunch more. Michaels was actually getting rid of the Jetmax brand and bringing in their own brand, and so it was really, really cheap. I think I got those for like $20 each, which is really, really good deal in Canada. Maybe even less than that. They were like 75% off or something crazy like that. So here's where I first invested in these shelving units that have the brackets. I love these shelving units because they're reconfigurable, and as your needs change, you can change how tall they are. Oops, sorry about that. You can change how tall they are, how much space is between them. You could add a 3rd shelf there if you wanted. You just have to buy the shelf and the brackets. So it's a very inexpensive way to add vertical storage to your room. And here you can see that I now have 2 of these folding tables. So I invested in another table, and now I have a fairly big space. And it doesn't have to be fancy. And I'm using under the table space as well for storage. And here's how it looks on the other side. And the island is still there. And, you know, I think that looks pretty cute, even though it's not fancy or finished. And then there was a little play area over there for my kids. So I guess my tips for you, if you don't have a dedicated scrap space, is to try to double up your travel storage for storage. Try to find yourself a closet, because a closet is much better than my corner dining room thingy that I had going on there. But don't hesitate to just kind of think about the space that you do have and then take over it. Like, even if, you know, we didn't have a finished basement, and I mean, we really still don't have a finished basement. You can see there's no trim on my door. There's no trim on the floor. The floor is not finished, but I made this space because it's what we had. So if you don't have a huge space like this, just carve out a space for yourself in your dining room, and then just put your supplies away. I think the key to having a non-dedicated scrap space is to streamline your storage and be able to put everything away really easily. So that's why I would rather bring cases of things to my table than bring actual pads of paper and actual packages of embellishment. Bringing a case with a whole bunch of supplies is a lot easier, because then if I suddenly realize, oh, I have to start dinner, I can just shove everything in the box, close it up, put it back on that shelf, and we're done. And then project, the ability to store in process projects is also key when you don't have a dedicated space. So project folders, briefcases that kind of give you strappy places to put things in, anything like that can be really, really helpful. So good luck. I hope you found that helpful. And also, anybody who, it's been a while since I've done scrapbooked that way. So anybody who currently or recently had to figure out how to scrapbook without having a dedicated space, please leave me a comment below for Shay and myself and anybody else who's watching this, so that we can learn from you guys. If you guys have any tips about products that work for you or storage options that work for you, let us know in the comments below.